Hello! So this is what we're going to build. Primarily a pricing plan that you can easily add into your homepage or landing page. I'm going to show you how I would do the different colored shadows as well. And I'm going to do it in the context of a newsletter subscription page because at the moment newsletters are very popular. The final version will look like this. I'm going to add a link to the pages section here. And on click, the link will take us to the newsletter subscription page. So we tell it to our link tag. We'll add some styling to it later. We just want to pop in what it's actually going to display. So newsletter subscription. In terms of the styling, we want to make it obvious that this is going to be a clickable link. So let's say text blue 600. Underline offset 2, which just leaves a bit of gap between the text and the actual underline. Text large, and on hover, let's make it fade a little bit. We can do this with opacity 80, which reduces the transparency by 20%. You can also do it as on hover text blue 500, 400, just adjust the color, whichever way you want. Alright, let's get started with creating a page in the new Next.js app router. It does feel a bit different if you're using the app router for the first time, and your first reaction might be a lot like mine, which was, I don't think I like it. But once you get used to it, you'll probably become fairly indifferent to it. And it's the recommended option, so we better get used to it. And how we're going to create this page in Next.js is simply come into our app folder, create a new folder, and as the folder name, give it the URL path name. So all lowercase, newsletter-subscription. And within this new folder, we add a file called page.tsx. RAFCE, make the relevant updates. And that's it. If we click on the link now, here's our new newsletter subscription page. So in our brand new newsletter subscription page, let's have a h1 tag and let's say mind-boggling newsletter. Then a h2 tag. This will be our tagline, so we can say something like, get those mind-boggling ideas straight into your inbox. I actually really like that tagline. Okay, let's decorate our h1 tag first. Let's say top and bottom padding of 10, text 4XL, and for medium-sized devices and upwards, we can make the font a bit bigger, so text 5XL. Font bold, uppercase, text center, leading normal, tracking wide. Leading normal is the equivalent of 1.5 line height, and tracking wide is referring to the letter spacing. So it'll be 0.025 em as the measurement. The h2 tag is going to be more or less the same as the h1 tag, just a smaller font size. So that we don't have to keep seeing this footer, let's add minimum height screen to this uppermost div. And we can give it a padding all around of 16. Now, for our pricing plan, we're going to have the traditional 3 tiers. So you're going to have the free or the lowest price in the far left column. And then the middle column will be the mid-tier price. And then on the far right, we're going to have the most expensive option. And to do this in the most efficient way, I'm going to add some data up here. I prepared the data earlier. So this is going to be our subscription data. And it's an array of 3 objects. In each object, we have a title as a string, a description as a string, and a price as a number. Down here, we need another div. This will be the div that splits the data into the 3 columns. So the class name will be grid, and then from large devices and onwards, we want the grid to have 3 columns. So that's grid calls 3. Otherwise, it will just be a single column by default. Let's say a gap of 10. Then we can populate our columns with our subscription data, mapped, of course. Remember to give this first div within the map a key, which should be the index denoted by I here. Then we have a h3 tag holding the title. The description and price will be p tags. You can see how it's more efficient to have the data set at the top like that, because this bit you may want to change the text and the information from time to time. When you do want to change it, you can just go into the top and just change the text. It doesn't change the format or styling, and you can keep the code fairly short down here. So that's why I'm doing it this way. We can see the top needs some padding, so how about py20? Never hurt to have an extra bit of padding at the bottom of the page. So that's why I'm doing top and bottom. For the price, 0 doesn't look very good, does it? Let's add some conditional rendering. If the price is 0, it'll say free. And for the word free, it can be double quotation marks or backticks, it doesn't really matter. And if it's not 0, it will display the price. And here we do want the backticks because we want to add the pound sterling sign here in front of the data.price. You can obviously add your local currency here instead, but it should be in backticks. If you try it in double quotation marks, it won't work. Let's add some CSS. The title, let's say text extra large, font medium, tracking wide. The description p tag, I think top padding of 4 is enough. And the price p tag, the same, top padding of 4. We want the price to stand out, so text extra large and font medium. Below it, let's have a form. Since it's a newsletter subscription page, we want to capture the user's email address, right? So we want an input and a button. The input will be of type email. Price holder text can be something like user@email.com. And we can give it a border, rounded corners, and a padding of all around 2. Okay, simple. The button can say sign up. Top bottom padding of 2, left and right padding of 4. Background color, let's say blue, text white, rounded corners. For this form overall, I think it'll look better with a top padding of 6. Flex in the direction of column, align items start, and let's say a gap of 4. And yeah, that looks good. And so that it looks closer to the UI design, we'll give it a background color of white, rounded corners, and a padding all around of 6. Let's have a look. I have a widescreen monitor, so you can see that the grid just stretches out. We need to add a limit on that because it does not look good. So in this div here, let's say max width 6XL, MX Auto. In a mobile version, it looks like the padding is too much. We shouldn't have to scroll horizontally on a mobile screen. So let's reduce it to padding all around of 6 and only 16 for medium-sized devices and upwards. Now, let's do the colorful shadows. I'm sure there is more than one way of doing it. This is just what came to my mind first. I'm going to add a div here. In the class name, we can do it as conditional styling. So if the index number is 0, the background color should be this pale yellow color. And this is how we add non-Tailwind custom colors. BG dash square brackets and then the hex color code. The dash and square brackets can be used to add custom CSS to most Tailwind properties. You'll see this a little bit later on as well. For now, let's carry on with our background color. If the index number is 1, the background is a pale pink color. And finally, for the last price card, if the index number is 2, the background is a pale purple color. Okay, we've got our background colors now. We can't see it at the moment because it's an empty div with no size specifications, but bear with me. To make the text with the white background color sit on top of the colored backgrounds, we need to wrap the h3 and p tags in another div. We can copy this styling down into this new div. And in this div, we can have the properties relative, which just simply means the position is going to be relative. Let's say width 80, height dash square brackets 21 rem. That's the dash and square brackets again. Z0, which is just the Z index, and bottom margin of 10. In our background color div, if we say width full, height full, rounded large, we should see the colors now. There you go. That's our background colors. We need to make sure that our div with our H3 and P tags sits on top of the background colors. So we need it to be absolute, negative bottom 8, and negative right 6. If we said bottom 0, it would position this div from the very end of our relative div. By having it as negative 8, it starts a bit further down from the relative div, and that is how we're able to see the bit of color popping out the top here. Z index 50. The idea of the Z index was to make sure that this div definitely sits on top of the background colors, but it doesn't look like we need it, so let's just remove it. And we can remove the Z index of 0 at the upper div here. If I remove the negative right 6, you'll see the effect, especially when we see it on a slightly bigger screen. To make the cards align center on the smaller screens, when there is only one column, we can add MX Auto in this div here. And if we compare it with the UI design, we're almost there. The UI design relies on a grayish background to bring out the colored shadows. Because we have this overall beige color, the colored shadows don't present very well. All we can do is add a background color. I played around between gray, slate, and blue, and I think the blue color looks the best with our color scheme. So let me play around with the margins and paddings to find the best fit. Okay, so my proposal is have the blue background cover the whole section here for small and medium screens. And from large screens onwards, which is where our grid starts to split into 3 columns, we can have a top and bottom margin of 16 and a left and right padding of 20 and rounded corners. This is how it looks. Let's deal with some final tidy ups. Leading normal is missing a dash here, and that's the line height. And how about a PY of 20 instead? We need to add negative right 6 back in here. That looks much better. If we compare it with the UI design, it's pretty good. If you want to achieve this superscript format in the price here, this is how you can do it. We can say if the price is not 0, we want to add a span, and the span will say per month, and it should be text small and a line top. There you go. We don't need the per word since we have the slash, so let me just delete that. Okay, I'm happy to leave it here and let you work on the dark properties. And because not everyone would want box shadows around the pricing plans, and not every pricing plan needs an email input, I thought I'd do a super simple, the simplest pricing plan as a component. So you can take it, tweak it, slot it wherever you want. So there you go, it's there. By the time the video is up, you'll have the GitHub link for it as well. And the idea is I'm going to deploy this beautiful website that we're building. And in the future, if you need some template components, you can just come in here and copy and paste it. Okay, so that's our pricing plan done. I'm gonna head off, have my afternoon coffee. See you next time.